Hello. I have so much energy today. I don't know why. I feel so energized. I feel so excited to be here with you. I had an amazing day, a lot happening. I know for you as well. School is starting. Well, school has started for Gabriel. School had started for Julia, and school will start for Noah on Monday. Simone will start school as well in Luxembourg when everyone is starting in Luxembourg on Monday. That's exciting. And yeah, a lot of other things. And Maria, you're a teacher as well, right, Maria? Yes, there you go. I remember our picnic.
We still have 2 weeks.
You still have 2 weeks? Oh, wow. Okay. Well, Maria still has 2 weeks. Good for her. I love it. My kids would love that school too. They don't. So welcome everyone to week 9 of the 10-week Tessy retreat. Yeah, it's getting sad because we're wrapping up, Next week's session will all be wrapped up and questions and talking with each other, the things you learned, the things you like best. Also getting to know each other more in the course. So this next week's session will not be recorded because there will be a lot of private things that we will share. So if you're listening to this recording, and you want to be part, please take care and be there next week at 7 because it's going to be there and not recorded. So for this session this week, we have all decided as a group that instead of doing another mindful breathing session, which we already had, this one would have been different, but it's similar and it's always kind of similar. We decided together to make it all about nutrition. So according to the WHO, nutrition is a critical part of health and development. Oh, before I get started, I'm not a licensed doctor, practitioner, or coach. By listening to my recording or being here live, you agree and understand this, that you and I we're all students, and I have put this presentation together as well as these 10 weeks as part of coursework for my PhD in integrative medicine at Quantum University. And yeah, I hope you find it useful. If you have any further questions, you can always get in touch with me or speak to a professional. So there you go. That is disclaimer as usual. So according to the WHO, then nutrition is a critical part of health and development. Better nutrition is related to improved infant, child, and maternal health, as you know, stronger immune systems, safer pregnancy and childbirth, lower risk of non-communicable diseases such as diabetes and cardiovascular diseases, and of course, and something we all want, longevity. Healthy children learn better, healthy adults learn better and perform better. People with adequate nutrition are more productive and can create opportunities to gradually break the cycles of poverty and hunger. Malnutrition in every form presents significant threats to human health. Today, the world faces a double burden of malnutrition that includes both undernutrition and overweight, especially in low and middle income countries. I think it's it's a big reflection, isn't it? Because we see, well, in the countries where we are from mostly, or where we are at the moment, we have people tuning in from Luxembourg, from Australia, from London, from France, from Brazil, from Malaysia, and many, many other regions. And most of them have quite a lot of food, if you want, right? So we have problems already with overweight. I see it in London. I see it in, well, Switzerland, not that much actually, but I see it in London. And I do see it in Luxembourg as well. And I do see it a lot in the US. I have lived in the US for years, and overweight is a huge problem there. Obesity is really, really big problem. Also, as my personal experience, when I lived in the US, I gained weight by eating so-called healthy food. And I realized that I actually gained weight because there was so much preservatives in my food, in the bread, in the fruits, in the vegetables and everything, that I would lose weight each time I visit with my children Luxembourg. So I would eat like crazy when I'm in Luxembourg because, of course, it's my favorite foods, but I would lose weight and I would gain it back when I was back in Florida just by eating as healthy as I could. And it was extremely frustrating for me. My neighbor, really lovely girl, very young girl, she was 11 at the time, just to show you what they put in the water with all of the hormones and everything. The development of young girls and young boys in the US is also way more advanced for the physical development as it is in European countries, because they put all kinds of hormones and stuff in the water as well. You have fluoride in the water as well, very high dosage of that, and all kinds of other things. So for example, most of the people in the US that I've seen, their breast development was huge. At a very young age, they have their periods much, much earlier, and all of these other things, which I think is related to what they eat and what is put in the food, the hormones that is in the meats and all of that stuff. So yeah, that was my personal experience. I don't know how you have experienced different countries and their foods, but I think we're quite lucky where we are, that a lot of food that we eat is bio, or you have an opportunity to buy bio. And as such, hormones and preservation is often kind of like minimized, which I think is great. So today we will learn mostly from the Harvard Public Health website. I love Harvard University. I have done several specialization courses there for my work. And I really, really, really love their resources. And I cannot emphasize more. Go and check out Harvard Public Health website. They have really amazing, amazing tools and information about health, nutrition, well-being, but also a lot of other topics. Whatever you can imagine, they have it. So they have an amazing library, and we will be working a lot from their library today. So I'm sitting again, as every week, as a student on the shoulders of giants. And this week it is Harvard University, so a very credible source. And what I'm reading to you is retrieved from their website. And if you want any more information, I will share the website in the chat, and I will also spell it out for the people joining in for the recording, so you can access that. So what I thought was interesting, so building a healthy and balanced diet, right? What does that mean? There's all of these different recommendation, eat these a day, eat that, or this and that. Also, depending on the culture you're living in, the health and what you put on your plate are sometimes different. So what I have found, and which kind of like represents the generic view on what should be on a plate. So make most of your meals vegetables and fruits, half of your plate. Aim for color and variety. And remember that potatoes don't count as vegetables. I just had a conversation with my husband as well on the healthy eating plate because of their negative impact on blood sugar. For the whole grains, a quarter of your plate. Whole and intact grains, whole wheat, barley, wheat berries, quinoa is very good, oats, brown rice, and foods made with them, such as whole wheat pasta, have a milder effect on blood sugar and insulin than white bread, white rice, and other refined grains. Protein powder is 1/4 of your plate. So fish, poultry, beans, and nuts are all healthy. Versatile protein sources, they can be mixed into salads and pair with vegetables on a plate. Limit red meat and avoid processed meats such as bacon and sausages. Why as well? Because well, you know, it can clog your arteries and all of these other things, you know, just the cholesterol. So yeah. Healthy plant oils in moderation. Choose healthy vegetable oils like olive, canola, soy, corn, sunflower, peanut, and others, and avoid partially hydrogenated oils, which contains unhealthy trans fats. Remember that low fat does not mean healthy. My husband always says that. He always, when it says, oh, low fat or low carbs, he looks on the package and then there's huge amount of sugar, right? So always look how much sugar there is in your food. You would be surprised where they put in sugar. Also, a side note, when I lived in Florida, the Frosties. That's a kind of cereal that I love. I know they're not healthy, but I love them. And the Frosties in America are 10 times sweeter than the Frosties you would eat in Luxembourg. So there's a different way of even the production in the US than in Europe, because in the US people are just so much more in use of sugar that you almost need to put so much more in order to get the taste, right, that people are in use of. That was my experience again. I'm sure other people have different experience, but that's just my personal experience. Drink water, coffee, or tea. Skip sugary drinks, limit milk and dairy products to 1 to 2 servings per day, and limit juice to a small glass per day. Stay active, of course. The red figure running across the healthy eating plates mask. So you have the stay active one is really, well, if you would imagine the plate, right? You have all of these different things, and you have in between the different food groups, you have a red line. That is how you would imagine the plate, and that is being active, because it is really important for weight control. Or as they say in German as well, friss die Hälfte, which means eat half, because that is what my husband always says. If you want to lose weight, you know, good food, everything is good. Also, you know, sugar is not bad. You need energy too. Fat is not bad. You need fat for your brain, but anything too much is bad. So just eat in moderation, I would say. That's what I always tell my kids. So, and that way you don't need to skip anything. For example, I personally do not ever do a diet. I have never done a diet. I always just eat in moderation, a bit of everything throughout the whole day. And yes, I love Nutella. And yes, I could eat a whole glass of Nutella, but I also need to restrain myself of not eating too much Nutella, you know? And that is also what it is. If you can control what you eat, you can control everything else in your life, because that is the first urge a lot of people have. And, you know, just try to control yourself a little bit. That as well is a meditation. We will get into that as well later, which is a mindful eating meditation. So the main message of the healthy eating plate, according to Harvard, is to focus on diet quality. The type of carbohydrate in the diet is more important than the amount of carbohydrate in the diet, because some source of carbohydrate, like vegetables other than potatoes, fruits, whole grains, and beans, are healthier than others. The healthy eating plate also advises consumers to avoid sugary beverages, a major source of calories, usually with little nutritional value in the American diet. The healthy eating plate encourages consumers to use healthy oils, and it does not set a maximum on the percentage of calories people should get each day from healthy sources of fat. In this way, the healthy eating plate recommends the opposite of the low-fat message promoted for decades by the USDA, which is a department specifically for nutrition, which I find really interesting, and that's why I kept it, because there's always these controversies, right, on low fat and it's better, but actually it's not always the case. So they have a whole section on how your food contents also takes part in the planet and in terms of climate change. So you can measure your climate change impact by what you put on your plate. So I put the link in the group later. I think it's extraordinary, because wait, I can maybe even do it like this now, so you can already pull it up if you want, but we will move on because we have a lot to get through. But that way, when you eat tonight or tomorrow, you can measure how much it impacts the planet. Isn't that cool? I think it's amazing, because it goes a little bit with the theme from farm to plate, right? You shouldn't eat food. If you want really fresh food, you should eat a certain radius around your house, right? So what do you have around your house? Go local, right? Here in Switzerland, it's a huge thing, and I really love it. Like here in Switzerland, for example, when you go for a hike, just next to my house, I live in Zurich. When you go for a hike in the mountains here, they have these food corners, like these fridges where the farms are, And you literally just take whatever you want. You take milk, butter, eggs, and there's a little box with a little hole in it, and there you put the money in. Like, how amazing is that? And how trustworthy is that? When I moved here, I said to my husband, no one takes that? And he's like, no. And people pay, so they take and they put the money in. Really, they actually do it. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, wow. Like, I could not imagine that in Luxembourg. And I could not imagine that in London, for sure. My God, London, no. Then they have also here, they have the same with plants. So with flowers, they have huge valleys full of flowers planted specifically that you go with your scissor, you cut them off, and then you put again in a little box, whatever you want. Simone says it exists in Luxembourg too. Well, amazing, right? Really good to know. I have not seen it in Luxembourg, so it's really good that they have it there too. Maybe you want to tell me, will you put in the chat where, and I can say that as well. But I think that's amazing. I think it's nice to trust people a bit, right? I think it gives a really nice tone to the aspect of community and what community means. So you can find the climate change one if you go on www.hsph.harvard.edu/nutrition-source/sustainability/plate and planet. That's the one for the one listening in, because you can't see the chat. And then the next resource is also something for Simone, for example, and Maria, and anyone who has children. It's again on the Harvard public policy website, public health website, which is all about children and what should be on their plates. There's a specific plate with the amounts on it, what the kid should eat and everything. And I think it's fantastic. I know some of you have children, but some of you don't have children. So I thought I'd leave the children section out today, just because we want to focus on grown-ups for now. But this is really, really nice. And it's again, harvard.edu, nutrition source, kids, healthy eating plate. There you go. So let's talk shortly about diseases. Again, found on the Harvard website, and I thought that was really interesting. Chronic diseases, including heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and cancer, account for some of the most common health problems in the United States, according to statistics from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC. Yet many of these chronic diseases are preventable, as they're linked to poor diet and lifestyle choices, including tobacco use, excessive alcohol consumption, and inadequate physical activity. The CDC reports some sobering statistics about that, specifically Americans, because it's the Harvard website, but you find these as well for every country on the country government websites, so wherever you are. So chronic diseases are the leading cause of death and disability. 70% of annual death are due to chronic diseases. 70%, isn't that nuts? That's a lot, right? These preventable conditions not only compromise quality of life, they add to rising healthcare costs. 75% of our healthcare dollars are devoted to treat these diseases. Among adults aged 20 to 74 years old, diabetes remains the leading cause of kidney failure, blindness, and non-traumatic lower extremity amputation. The good news is that you have the power to help prevent chronic disease, and that's why we're here today. Eating healthy foods, getting enough exercise, and refraining from tobacco and excessive alcohol use confer numerous health benefits, including possibility preventing the onset of chronic diseases. We will also later go into some of the foods that I have brought for you, including a champagne brand from Paris, from France, not from Paris, but from France, which actually is the first one, and I will tell you in detail later, the first one I have found that actually tastes like champagne, rosé champagne, and it is 100% alcohol-free. So there you go. We can have champagne without having the alcohol, which is really great. Also, because then often when you drink non-alcoholic one, the sugar amount is quite high. But this one is also not that high in energy, so in sugar, which I think is really, really great. It's 15.2 calories for 100 milliliters, which I think is okay. Well, it is a leisure drink, right? It's not like water. Don't drink it all day long, but it is nice if you want to have a glass of champagne, but you don't want to have the alcohol. I think it's fantastic, but we get into this later. So now, something which is related to why we are all here, mindfulness. I thought I put a mindful eating theory here. Again, this was according to Harvard T. Chan School of Public Health. And I really, really loved it. So mindful eating, what is it, right? I'm sure some of you are like, okay, never heard about that. Stems from the broader philosophy of mindfulness, a widespread centuries-old practice used in many religions. As we learned over the last 8 weeks, mindfulness is an international focus on one's thoughts, emotion, and physical sensations in the present moment. Mindfulness targets becoming more aware of rather than reacting to one's situation and choices. Eating mindfully then means that you are using all of your physical and emotional senses to experience and enjoy the food choices you make. This helps to increase gratitude for food, which can improve the overall eating experience. Mindful eating encourages one to make choices that will be satisfying and nourishing to the body. However, it discourages judging one's eating behaviors, as there are different types of eating experiences. As we become more aware of our eating habits, we may take steps towards behavior changes that will benefit ourselves and our environment. So, how does it work, right? Mindful eating focuses on your eating experiences, body-related sensations, and thoughts and feelings about food, about heightened awareness and without judgment, very important. Attention is paid to the foods being chosen, internal and external physical cues, and your responses to those cues. The goal is to promote a more enjoyable meal experience and understanding of the eating environment. Fong and colleagues described a mindful eating model that is guided by 4 aspects: what to eat, why we eat, what we eat, how much to eat, and how to eat. Mindful eating, so consider the wider spectrum of the meal, where the food came from, how it was prepared, and who prepared it. Instead of just sitting down on the table, even in the cafeteria, right, when you're in school, just imagine, also for the students, have you ever asked them if they actually realize how many hours went into preparing a meal? Your mother, your wife, your husband, right? Instead of just sitting there, where does the food come from? Have you ever asked your wife, your husband, your mother, your teacher, your cook, or whatever, where did you buy this? And why did you prepare it that way? Things like that. Notice internal and external cues that affect how much we eat. Distractions, right? Don't watch TV and so on, or be on your phone. And I also need to tell my husband all the time, take off your phone, because he's also working when we're having lunch or something. And I always say, hey, we're putting phones away now. I would love to talk to you, even though I'm feeding baby as well. We don't really talk to each other, but I would like him to be present with us instead of just being on his phone and shoveling in the food and then going back in his office. And that as well, distraction, when you're distracted, your mind, your body takes around 20 minutes to feel full. So if you're just shoveling in, you're actually eating more than if you would eat mindfully and actually really take the time. It also is how you eat. So, and it's not for nothing that they say you need to chew your food X amounts of time instead of, we don't chew enough our food, which chewing is one of the major processes of breaking down the food. The breakdown of food starts in your mouth, because the saliva has a lot of enzymes and everything is already being digested in your mouth. So try to chew more, take time, chew 10 times, 15 times your food. Yes, and it seems long and it loses the taste sometimes when you chew too long. It is true, but your body will thank you, because you're going to feel much quicker, fuller, and also your digestion will thank you. Notice how the food looks, tastes, smells, and feels in our body as we eat. Try to also prepare it nicely. I always try to prepare it nicely for the kids and for my husband. For baby, I do too, but he he just throws it around anyways. But I try, and it will become better when he's older. I will put a bit more effort in it, in the view for him too, when he realizes it more. But he is getting there. Acknowledge how the body feels after eating the meal, right? We have a little bit of a défaillance, we call it in French, which is kind of like feel a bit tired, feel happy, but content and full and whatever, but sometimes you feel a bit too much or bloated or whatever. So yeah, just realize how you feel. And also, again, it goes back to what have you eaten that makes you feel that way, right? Too much, or maybe a certain amount of certain food your body actually didn't digest well, things like that. Expresses gratitude for the meal. Not everyone has food on their plates, or not as much as we have access to. And I always tell my children that, and I always remind myself of that. I hate wasting food. And I call it gesammelte Werke. So always on the weekends, I always try to just do all of the leftovers from the fridge, and I do meals with that because I just don't want to throw away food. And it's actually pretty cool when you mix the foods from the week, which were in the fridge, and you just create something completely new from a meal that you had before. So try it out, and be grateful for it, right? Because if you are a meat eater, and I eat meat, an animal needed to die for you to eat that. So buy organic meat, because you see all of these factories where the animals are not treated right, and I think that's not okay. You shouldn't eat that food. You should eat proper meat where the animal had a good life, and yes, okay, it needed to die for us to eat it. And there's also a lot of debate about that, and a lot of people don't like that too, and so on. Without going into that debate now, but yeah, just be grateful. Some life force needed to let go of its energy so that you can have more energy, right? And I think it's a beautiful circle, but it demands for respect. The same for the plants we eat, the same for the grains we have. Look at the fact that now with the Russian-Ukraine war, grain has become a real scare. Flour and wheats, and Lebanon, for example, is really struggling creating with bread and all kinds of other things. We have seen it in many other countries as well, shortages on delivery because of that war on these nutritional foods, right? So let's be grateful for that, because we all connect in some ways. Fish has been so overfished in the sea that there's almost no more fish. Well, there is a lot of fish, but there's a lot of less fish now. And there's just so much overfishing. There's all of these documentaries. I eat fish, but I also try not to eat too much fish. So to really treat it as something special, and also just good sources, because there's a real mafia when it comes to fish. And there's some Netflix documentaries on it, and there's really crazy stuff. Like people get killed for exposing how people fish their fish and then sell it, like it is pretty crazy. Also the avocado wars on Netflix, there's a documentary on that as well. People die because of that. There's all kinds of, every food we eat has its story. I have an academia website, if you go on academia.edu, and I wrote a paper on how the tomato colonized the world, which kind of like illustrates that, of just the food tomato, and how that has created this political and diplomatic process and trade between countries around the world. But then I also wrote about the bento box and how political that is in Japan. And mothers actually get graded on it and shamed if their bento box doesn't form a certain amount of, the view, whatever it is. So the rice represents something certain. It needs to be measured by a certain weight, and the colors and which fish you use and everything. Like, it's pretty extraordinary. So I wrote a paper on that, and that is actually one of my most read papers on academia, and I have thousands of followers, and I think I have around 20,000 views on my academic papers. But that one is one of the most read ones. Because I just love writing about food, and it's just extraordinary how political food is. So just inform yourself where the food comes from that you're eating every day, and get familiar a bit with the history of that particular food group, And that is an amazing, amazing thing you could do at school and work with the students of all age, teenagers. I started my food writing and the politics of food when I was at university. So doing that with teenagers is not at all boring at all. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Jessica put in the chat section, animals, they needed to die and live of a life of torture in animal farms. It is true, you know, so just when you do your research where you buy your meat, just be careful and mindful of that. You know, I know that not everyone has the resources and the money to buy the best meat out there, because good meat is also expensive. So treat it as something special, right? You don't need to eat meat every day or fish every day. We don't. And I think that's right like that. May use deep breathing or meditation before or after the meal. There's some food meditations you can do. There's the one I showed you, the brain tap one. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Jessica says just go vegan. There's actually amazing sections now in every supermarket on plant-based meats, and we buy a lot of that. Really a lot of that, where we buy plant-based ground beef, and I do my pasta sauce with that, or my burritos or whatever. I buy plant-based fish sticks. Theodore loves them, and I love them too. They're so good. I buy plant-based steak tartare, so meat tartare, and it tastes like meat tartare. Like, it is amazing, right? So there's all of these things that you can buy now. Plant-based cheese, which doesn't come from milk, and it tastes like Emmentaler. It's really extraordinary. So we're really switching to that big time. My husband is a very big supporter of that, because he says as well, it's just not sustainable with all of the meat and the fish that we're eating right now for the planet. So yeah, really good. Water is also an interesting topic, Maria. Absolutely, and the war of it, because you have seen already now, you know, a lot of the rivers, the lakes, and the water supplies this summer have dried out, right? We had water shortages all over the world because the summer was so warm. And I think this is not something to take very lightly. And it's definitely something we need to watch and be more mindful of. You know, turn off the tap. You don't need to take a bath every day. You know, it is really that. And it's a bit like what we talked about last week with electricity, right? Electricity and gas will become the next scare, and it is already happening because of the Ukraine-Russian war. And already here in Switzerland, they're putting all about this information from the government, you know, what we need to do. It's in the papers all the time to save electricity. We're already doing that, where we turn off the lights during the day when we don't need to, and all other things that you can really do. We bought firewood for the winter. Instead of having lights on, we will put on more of the chimney, right? And things like that. So inform yourself how you can make a difference as well, because there's so many resources out there. And we're all in this together, no? Reflects on how our food choices affect our local and global environment. That goes with the link I told you before about sustainability, plate and planet. Go and check out the link and measure how your food has an impact on our planet. So then, 7 practices of mindful eating. Before I go to that, any questions? For now? No? Perfect. So 7 practices of mindful eating from Savor. Mindful eating, mindful life. It's from book. Honor the food. So acknowledge where the food was grown and who prepared the meal. Eat without distraction to help deepen the eating experience. 2, engage all senses. Notice the sound, color, smells, tastes, and textures of the food and how you feel when eating. Pause periodically to engage these senses. 3, serve in modest portions. This can help avoid overeating and food waste. Use a dinner plate no larger than 9 inches across and fill it only once. 4, savor small bites and chew thoroughly. These practices can help slow down the meal and fully experience the food's flavors. Eat slowly to avoid overeating. If you eat slowly, you are more likely to recognize when you're feeling satisfied. As I told you before, it takes around 20 minutes. for your body to recognize that you're full, or when you're about 80% full and can't stop eating. Don't skip meals. Going too long without eating increases the risk of strong hunger, which may lead to the quickest and easiest food choice, not always a helpful one. Setting meals at around the same time each day, as well as planning for enough time to enjoy a meal or a snack, reduces these risks. That is also important, and I tell my kids that all the time. Take the time to eat. We take time for a lot of things, but we never take time for ourselves, and we never take time for eating, which is kind of like putting gas into the machine, right? In your body. So really take the time to do so. And 7, eat a plant-based diet, which we have started for your health and for the planet. Consider the long-term effects of eating certain foods. Processed meat and saturated fat are associated with an increased risk of colon cancer and heart disease. Production of animal-based foods like meat and dairy takes a heavier toll on your environment than a plant-based foods. And yes, I'm guilty as well. I do love my sausage when I eat my Luxembourgish Carcasse cheese. I do, and I'm guilty, but it doesn't mean I need to eat it every day, right? So you don't need to completely eradicate your sausage. That's not what I'm saying. Or your steak that you like. I love Relais de l'Entrecôte, for example, where they only serve steak, fries, and a very, very, very heavy butter sauce and a salad. That's all they have on their menu, and I love it. But, you know, not every day, guys. There's so many other things, and as I said before, familiarize yourself with plant-based diet. There's really so many amazing choices out there now. There's also the choice of eating insects instead of meat. Not sure about that one. My ex-husband was very, very keen on insect eating. We have tried it, and I have invested in companies who do that. I think it's great, and it definitely replaces a lot of food groups that we are having, but I still don't get around it too quickly, I must say. I try it all the time, but it's difficult. For the people tuning in from London, there's a restaurant called Antipolote, I think it is, which serves only insects in all kinds of varieties, and all kinds of other animals, which I think is a great experience. It's fun, but yeah, you must, it's something in your brain that must click, right? If you want to make that food choice and that transition. Andrew says he can't tell the difference with plant-based. Exactly. They are so realistic now that you really, kind of like the meatballs, for example, the chicken meatballs, the plant-based chicken meatballs. They are fantastic. The gyros is amazing. There's just a lot of really amazing things. So check it out, because of course it varies between regions. Some regions have more than others, of course. So the research so far, the opposite of mindful eating, sometimes referred to as mindless or distracted eating, is associated with anxiety, overeating, and weight gain. Examples of mindless eating are eating while driving. Don't do that. We don't do anything other than driving. Focus on the street. No phones, no food. While working, don't eat at your desk. If your boss or if your colleagues don't respect the 10 minutes you want to take to eat, do you want to work there? If you need to work there, okay, I'm sorry, but do you really need to work there if people don't even respect that you need to put some fuel in your body in order to perform properly to do your work, right? So don't eat while working. Well, you can always have a snack like chips or something, which is not healthy, but there's also some options of chips which have never been fried, high in protein, made out of vegetables. There's all kinds of things now. Or viewing a television or other screen, phone, tablet. You can have your movie night, no problem. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but yeah, I know couples actually who eat every night in front of the TV. Don't do that. Although socializing with friends and family during a meal can enhance an eating experience, talking on the phone or taking a work call while eating can detract from it. In these scenarios, one is not fully focused on and enjoying the meal experience. Interest in mindful eating has grown as a strategy to eat with less distraction and to improve eating behaviors. Intervention studies have shown that mindfulness approaches can be an effective tool in the treatment of unfavorable behaviors such as emotional eating and binge eating that can lead to weight gain and obesity, although weight loss as an outcome measure is not always seen. This might be due to differences in study design in which information on diet quality or weight loss may or may not be provided. Mindfulness addresses the shame and guilt associated with these behaviors by promoting a non-judgmental attitude. Mindfulness training develops the skills needed to be aware of and accept thousands of emotions without judgment. It also distinguishes between emotional versus physical hunger cues. These skills can improve one's ability to cope with the psychological distresses that sometimes leads to binge eating. Mindful eating is something associated with a higher diet quality, such as choosing fruit instead of sweets as a snack. And you can also dry foods, then they become like chips, actually. There is this humidator, or what is it called, where you can dry all kinds of food, which is amazing and a real great alternative of chips. Or opting for smaller serving sizes of calorie-dense foods. Oh, wait, 1 second. My baby is puzzled. Frank? You want to come say hi? Wait, baby is going to take a shower with Papa now. Here he is. And my husband. There.
Hello.
Is there? You can get to be nice too. He's getting all shy now. Hi. Ja. Mama holt noch ein bisschen. Gehst beim Papa ein bisschen? Ja? Ja, war ein bisschen kalt gestern. Ne? Schon? Ah ja, okay. Ich mach das. Aber unten sind auch die Pyjamas, das ist vielleicht ein bisschen klein. Eine Hose mit dem Pullover habe ich reingelegt. Das ist ganz neu.
Okay, is mit Eis dann?
Ja, genau.
Okay.
Bis später, viel Spaß. So he is going to take a bath with Papa now. We always do that on Thursdays when I give the course, because then he doesn't cry. And my husband was reminding me that my camera is not 100% better. Oh, there you go. That's maybe a little bit better. So there you go. So mindful eating is sometimes associated with higher diet qualities, such as choosing food instead of snacks, as I said, or opting for smaller serving sizes of calories-dense foods. A literature review, now we get really dense here, of 68 intervention and observational studies on mindfulness and mindful eating found that these strategies improved eating behaviors such as slowing down the pace of a meal and recognizing feelings of fullness and greater control over eating. Slower eating was associated with eating less food as participants felt fuller soon, again, 20 minutes. Mindfulness and mindful eating interventions appeared most successful in reducing binge eating and emotional eating. However, the review did not show that these interventions consistently reduced body weight. Limitations of the study include smaller sample size, limitation durations of about 6 months or less, lack of focus on diet quality, and lack of follow-up so that long-term study successful was not determined. See, now there you go, that's better. So a randomized control trial following 194 adults with obesity, 78% were women, for 5.5 months, looked at the effect of a mindfulness intervention on mindful eating, sweets consumption, and fasting glucose levels. The participants were randomly assigned to one of the two groups, a diet and exercise program with mindfulness concepts, stress reduction, chair yoga, meditation, affirmation, or the same program but without mindfulness concepts. After 12 months, the mindfulness group showed a decreased intake of sweets and maintenance of fasting blood glucose, as opposed to the control group showing increased fasting blood glucose. The research authors also evaluated weight loss with these participants, but did not find a significant difference in weight changes between the mindfulness group and control group, which I think is hilarious, because then, okay, you eat less sweets, but you're not losing any weight compared to the others. So why are you eating less sweets then? I'm being a little bit of a devil here, the Harvard group there. But yeah, I'm sure some of you were thinking the same right now, right? So we need to always keep a critical mind as well when we're reading studies and when we're learning, right? We're all students, and even I try to teach you new things, you still have your critical mind. And when I read these things, I always have a smile, you know, because there's some things we can relate to and others, there's some question marks after, huh? So there was another one. A small controlled trial of 50 adults with type 2 diabetes were randomized to either a 3-month mindful eating intervention that was focused on reducing overeating and improved eating regulation, or to a diabetes self-management education, also known as DSME, intervention that was focused on improving food choices. Both groups showed significant improvements in measures of depression, nutrition self-efficacy, and controlling overeating behaviors. Both groups lost weight during the intervention, but there was no difference in the amount of weight loss between groups. So it is important to note that currently there is no standard for what defines mindful eating behavior. And there is no one widely recognized standardized protocol for mindful eating. So maybe someone is listening in, maybe that's something to do, right? Or to start, or something to do with in school with a class. I don't know, as a research project. I think it's quite cool, no? Research uses a variety of mindfulness scales and questionnaires. Study designs often vary as well, with some protocols including a weight reduction component or basic education on diet quality, while others do not. Additional research is needed to determine what behaviors constitute a mindful eating practice so that a more standardized approach can be used in future studies. Standardized tools can help to determine the long-term impact of mindful eating on health behaviors and disease risk and prevention, and determine which group of people may most benefit from mindfulness strategies. Are mindful eating strategies applicable in youth? Mindfulness is a strategy used to address unfavorable eating behaviors in adults, and there is emerging interest in applying this method in adolescents and children, due to the high prevalence of unhealthy food behaviors and obesity in younger ages. More than 1/3 of adolescents in the US have overweight or obesity. 1/3, more than 1/3. That is, so every child, so out of 3 children, there's 1 who is obese, which I think is just insane. Youth who have overweight, obesity are likely to experience weight-related stigma and bullying by their peers, which in turn can negatively affect eating behaviors and lead to eating disorders. Studies have found that eating disorders are developing at younger ages, with an increased number of children younger than 12 years of age presenting for treatment, which I think is crazy. We have seen as well in the, the suicide rates have gone up, right? Also during the COVID pandemic, because it is said that the young people, well, a lot have been just forgotten, right? There was all of these groups that have been taking care of the elderly and the sick and people at work. But with the children there, with mindfulness, there has been really a big lack during the COVID pandemic. And I think the after effects, and there has in the Handelszeitung here in Zurich, there was a huge article on aggression with youth that comes out now, and they literally point the finger towards the pandemic and how that has been handled towards young people as one of the main causes of that. So it's to be seen what is still to come, right? So then let's go over to the adolescents then, which would be interesting for Simone and Maria. A review of 15 studies of mindfulness-based intervention in adolescents found, so adolescence is like teenage age, found that mindfulness techniques were associated with reduced concerns about body shape, less dietary restraints, decreased weight, and less binge eating. However, interestingly, the overall acceptability of the mindfulness-related intervention was rated low by the participants compared with the general health education. It is likely that the way mindful strategies are presented to younger ages needs to better understand. They need more understanding, as it may be different than in adults. It's maybe not cool enough. It's boring and long and so on. So when you do that with adolescents and with children also in school, it needs to be presented in an appropriate age way. An example could be using new online technologies, right? That are specific to their development age and learning ability. People love their phones and their tablets. The review also found that mindfulness in the form of meditation and mindful breathing can have significant effects on disordered eating through better stress management and reduced overeating caused by depression and anxiety. Studies are still scarce in children, but novel programs are emerging. A pilot mindful eating intervention was tested in a low-income school in California, involving 3rd through 5th grade children, including Hispanic and non-Hispanic children. The goal was to foster healthy eating behaviors in the children and their parents. The program included topics such as master mindless munching, getting to know hunger and fullness, and sensational senses, and provided take-home activities to do with their parents. Surveys at the end of the program showed that the children and parents liked the activities, and there was an increase in parents serving nutritious meals and practicing mindfulness during meals, meaning recognizing when hungry versus full. So potential pitfalls, though, we need to be critical. Mindful eating is not intended to replace traditional treatments for severe clinical conditions such as eating disorders. Neurochemical imbalances are a risk factor for developing eating disorders such as bulimia and anorexia nervosa. And although mindfulness may be an effective component of a treatment plan, it should not be used as a sole treatment. May not be effective as a weight loss strategy on its own, but rather a complement to a weight loss program. Mindful eating embraces making food choices that promote well-being, as we have heard, and increasing enjoyment of the eating experience. Traditional weight loss regimes focus on following a structured meal plan that may not necessarily be satisfying or enjoyable. Combining mindfulness with a meal plan under the guidance of a registered dietitian may reduce the risk of emotional overeating and binge eating. So, bottom line, according to Harvard, and then we are done with all the theory, mindful eating is an approach to eating that can complement any eating pattern. Research has shown that mindful eating can lead to greater psychological well-being, increased pleasuring when eating, and body satisfaction. Combining behavioral strategies such as mindfulness training with nutritional knowledge can lead to helpful food choices that reduce the risk of chronic illnesses and diseases, promote more enjoyable meals experiences, and support a healthy body image. Of course, more research is needed to examine whether mindful eating is an effective strategy for weight management. So if you're interested in doing that in school or with your partner at home, do it, because I think it's a really, really important research that we need. Yeah, no problem, Maggie. See you next time. And yeah, tune in for the end, because now comes all of the gadgets I have for you. So definitely watch the end. Bye, Maggie. So guys, I will take off my blur here, so you will see my library. You will actually see, look at this. This is my work desk today. Can you see it? So I'm sitting on my husband's desk. Yes, it is not. It is full of stuff because I had so much work the last 2 weeks. And, you know, just working one pile off after the other when I can, when baby is happy, or when he sits on the floor here. But yeah, I still have a lot to go through. So yay, weekend. So there you go. So now we get to the fun part. Theory is over, guys. Take a breath. If you have any questions, let me know. Just put the hand up or put it in the chat. But now we're moving over to some of the perks I have for you, which I want you to go and check out because I think they're extraordinary. And we use them here in the house and they're pretty cool. So one thing is called 4 Sigmatic, which is spelled like this. 4 like the number 4. And then Sigmatic, S-I-G-M-A-T-I-C. You can access that online. It's a Finnish company, and we have been with them since they were a startup. We didn't invest in them, which makes me mad now because their market share price has skyrocketed. Their products are really extraordinary. So they are mushroom-based food supplements, which I think is amazing. So this one, for example, is called Mushroom Blend Mix for Defense. So that's when you know, especially now as we go into fall, It's very good for your immune system to kind of like boost it up a little bit. Here you find organic chaga in it, reishi, cordyceps, lion's mane, shiitake, maitake, enoki, acarius, mashima, and tremella. All kind of like, they're all mushrooms. And you have vitamin C from rose hips. What you do with this, you can upgrade, so mix it in a coffee or tea in the morning. You can blend it with a smoothie, or you can cook it, add it to soup, baked goods, and more. It's earthy and smooth. So that's the flavor of this, which is amazing. I don't have an open one now, but I have some downstairs, but really amazing. So we have this one, 4 Sigmatics. Then we have 4 Sigmatics as well. I just gave a course here while doing dinner. I gave a presentation on sleep to my friends, and I talked about 4 Sigmatic for sleep. So they have one which is specifically with reishi, and this one is to chill, and looks like this. And this one it's of course coffee free, caffeine free. So it's bitter and earthy. You put it in water and you drink it in the evening. It's to relax you and bring your nervous system down. But then you have also the same one. It's like they say swap it for your nightcap. Instead of, I don't know what you take, try this. What I think is good with this, they have also the hot chocolate version, which I really like. So also for children, I give it to Gabon and Noah, and they really like it. So we have a hot chocolate before going to bed. And it makes them really relax. Don't worry, it's not it's not psychoglobin, there's no psychedelics or anything, mushrooms like that. It's totally safe and really, really nice. On the website, there's more information on it as well. From what age onwards you can use it, I don't know yet. I don't know. I give it to my teenagers, which are taller than me. They're 180 and 183. So, and they weigh more than me. So if I can take it, they can certainly take it. But for little children, please check on the website, because I'm not sure, because my children are not small. So really great. And I use it as well. Then you have the opposite. You have the cordyceps, and you have lion's mane, which is in the morning, which kind of my husband takes it as a replacement for his coffee, and he loves it. It's really, really nice. This one, the cordyceps, is for performance when you need to do sports and stuff. This is caffeine free, but the lion's mane one is the one that really kicks you in if you need to really be sharp in the morning. So you find that again on the website. They have all kinds of amazing things there. One last thing I want to show you for Andrew as well, because we have some males here. The superfood blends for Prince, which is an 3 all-male superfood. So they have specific ones also for women, and this one is for males. So check it out. My husband loves it. So this one has maca, macuna, and murabuama, which are roots, seeds, and again, root. You do one teaspoon a day, and it's quite strong, this one. So they have also a strong index. As you can see, it's quite strong. As a dietary supplement, which I think is really good for men, because men don't take vitamins so much as we women. I have seen, and that's just my personal experience. I know as well a lot of men who take a lot of vitamins, but not the men I know. I always need to convince my children to take their vitamins. So this is a really good alternative, because you can just mix it into their food. Tell them, but they don't taste it that much anyways. Then something I do a lot in my coffee in the morning is curcuma. So turmeric, curcuma. I would definitely recommend that. So this is an energetic blend because it has turmeric, curcuma, ginger, and cinnamon. And I use this in the morning with my chicorée coffee. So I don't drink coffee, but I drink coffee that tastes like chicorée, which we have seen in week 7. And it's really good for anti-inflammation. Because when you feel tired and so on, even though that you're not sick or you don't have fever, your body has all the time some mini inflammations in your joints, in your organs, whatever it is. And by using turmeric in your daily routine, in your food, in your smoothies, in your coffee, it really helps keeping the inflammation rate in your body down. So I would definitely recommend that you do that. This is one that I bought in London, but you know, you can get it in Cactus, you get turmeric wirklich überall. You can get it everywhere. Very, very good. And we use it a lot. One thing I do in the morning as well, which is really, really good and very, very important, and people would not think that, but my friend Kira Townsend actually brought me to that, is to drink a miso soup. You know, people like Actimel, great, it has bifidus in it, but a miso soup has also a lot of these enzymes that you need, which correlate for your gut health. And you get these miso soups that you can buy, they cost like €2 or whatever, for like 4 miso soups. You get them here in Switzerland, in the Asian section in the shop, but you get them in Luxembourg as well. They are already done. You just need to mix them up with hot water, right? Have them in the morning. It's maybe not your first choice you would take, but have them with breakfast or after breakfast around 11 o'clock when you would drink your tea. Have a miso soup because it's extremely, extremely good for your gut health. Your gut will thank you. So have a miso soup. And then last but not least, because we're already getting to the end of our session today, and I want to have a little bit of a Q&A later and ask you about your habits. I have 2 things here that I found out recently. So I'm a Nutella freak, but I found this now, which is a chocolate spread, which is high in protein and has no sugar, no added sugar. It's a hazelnut one, cream, and it has some fake one of these new sugar things, but it's not sugar from trees. And I must say this one comes, you can get it online as well. This one comes closest to the taste of Nutella than anyone I have tried before, which I love because I love Nutella. And I'm very happy about that because actually now snacking makes me feel less guilty with this. So that's really good. That's one I use. Again, I'm not paid for this. This is not advertisement. This is just what I use. And then last but not least, I have this for you guys, which is my newest discovery. For Theodore's birthday, we were in a restaurant here in Switzerland, the Seehaus, and I don't drink alcohol. So the waiter came to me and said, "Oh, you don't want to have a glass of champagne like everyone else?" I said, "No, I don't drink alcohol. Do you have an alcohol-free beer?" Which is often the alternative. And yes, it's nice, but you know, honestly, right, girls and men, when everyone drinks champagne, you don't want to have a beer, right? So I was like, yeah, okay, why not? And he said, well, actually, we have a champagne, which is alcohol-free. It's a rosé and a white one. They have the white one as well. We bought it. I haven't tried it yet. But the rosé is really like you would drink a rosé prosecco. And I was like, yeah, sure. It's going to be sweet and it's going to take like grape juice and whatever, right? But I didn't want to be impolite. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I must say, when it needs to be chilled, it needs to be nice and cool, but it tastes the same. Like a nice Ruinart or a Louis Roederer, really chilled rosé, totally in that league. I gave it to my husband, who is the biggest critic of wine, and he loved it. He actually bought me 6 bottles of that now, because he was so happy that there's something also for him, because he doesn't like alcohol. He barely drinks alcohol now. So he was like, now I can enjoy a glass as well without having the effects in the morning, being tired or having a headache because I had champagne or stomach ulcers or whatever, right? So yeah. This one is called ODD Bird, liberated from alcohol, produced by, it's Oat Bird, ODD Bird. That is how it looks. So write it down. You can buy it online. We bought it online. So they say Oat Bird was founded in 2013 by former social worker and family therapist Moa Gürtzbürzer. Wow, okay. Cool name. Gürtzbürzer. She founded Oatbird in order to transform our drinking culture and create a more inclusive society. Oatbird creates traditional crafted wines from the fine vineyards, The wines are matured for up to 12 months and then gently liberated from alcohol. So this one has, the grape is Syrah. The terroir is light and stony clay limestone, notes of apple, citrus, summer berries, aging for 12 months in France. So ingredients, which is always important to read. This one has de-alcoholized wine. It has sugar in it, carbon dioxide, preservatives, and so it has a bit of sulfites in it as well. You need to be careful with sulfites. There's actually a filter you can use to kind of like get the sulfite out of your wines. Some people actually react quite strongly on sulfites, and you have it in most of the wines, to be honest with you. But there's wines specifically who claim as well to be sulfite free. Sulfites can give you some skin rashes, or even the headaches and some organ problems come from sulfites. So always check that out. So this one has sulfites in it, but yeah, it has no alcohol and it tastes like the real deal. So I like it, and I will definitely have a glass after our class of the chilled one. This one is not the one from the fridge. So yeah, this is kind of like some of the things I use here. There's so many other things you can use, but please, as I mentioned before, I don't judge anyone. I don't judge what you eat. I don't judge how you live your lives, but always stay open and curious to new things. So try more plant-based meats and dairy replacements, because they are actually getting there. They are actually yummy, and they actually almost taste like the real deal. There's amazing food supplements you can have, like the Four Sigmatics, and there's so many other brands out there. This is just one we used because my husband found it on a podcast. There's a podcast from Tim Ferriss, actually, and write it down if you love podcasts. Tim Ferriss, Ferris, and he has always the most amazing guests, and he comes up with all of these things. The Aura Ring, Tim Ferriss. Four Sigmatic, Tim Ferriss. The eye shade I taught you, Tim Ferriss. Like, he always comes up with these amazing new tools. So a lot of the new tools I use and I showed you come from Tim Ferriss's podcast and his guests, because he always has the newest and most innovative people there. And I wish I could talk to him one day. He's just the coolest dude ever. I invited him on my podcast and I haven't had a reply yet, but he probably will say no or never reply. But, one can dream, and so can I, I might have amazing guests on my podcast already, but I also have my dream wish list, and he's definitely one of them. So there you go. Check him out. Then again, someone I have mentioned before is Sam Harris. Sam Harris has also a podcast, and he has amazing guests. He works a lot with Ricky Gervais, which is hilarious. They're kind of like philosophizing about world and life and people, and it's hilarious. But he also has a mindfulness challenge, and he is very different, and it's a different school of thought than I taught you over the last 10 weeks. He actually asks you to embrace the noise you hear in mindfulness and the objects around you. So his meditation is with the eyes open, and it's really about looking beyond that and kind of like taking a different view and meditation. And we have done it, my husband and me, and it's amazing. It's very challenging, but he starts very softly off and you really slowly getting into it. And it's a really good school of thought as well. If you want to challenge your brain a little bit and looking at things differently and just doing mindfulness differently, do his 21-day challenge. It's pretty impressive. And I can ask my husband if you want, get in touch, and I send you a code where you can get 2 months free of his program, because his program, you pay for it, but with my husband's code, you can get 2 months free off. So if you're interested, just DM me and I ask my husband to generate a code for you. But I think it's really cool. Sam Harris is really cool. And he as well, he says, if you don't see any benefits after paying for his subscription, he refunds you in full, because he believes in it so much. And I think he's a really cool guy and he does a really great job. So that's Sam Harris. And then, yeah, there's a lot of other resources out there, which I'm sure you're already using from the last weeks that we have talked about. And next week, we will do a recap of the different weeks, of the different things we have seen. And as mentioned before, when we started this, next week will not be recorded. Next week is Q&A intensely. We will talk about everything. We will talk about the takeaways, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want more. Maybe we can extend this a bit more to a few more weeks if you want. If there's interest, I happily make the time. If there's topics you want to hear about, I happily do the research and present it to you. No problem. We can do this a once a month get together, whatever you want. But I'm here for you, and I'm very grateful that you took the time. And so, yeah, this was, oh, I love it, Simone. Thank you for the heart. That was a really big heart coming up on my screen now. Really sweet. I love it. So this is the wrap up. We are already here since an hour and a half. And well, now I'm 22 minutes. So I will pause recording now for the Q&A as always. And I see you next week for our last session of our 10-week retreat that we have spent together. 10 weeks, guys. That is insane, right? 3 months we have spent together, almost 3 months, which is just insane, isn't it? The whole summer. So yeah, I'm just so grateful, and I'm really baffled, you know, because when you practice mindfulness and just realize what 10 weeks represent, because you are in the moment and because you do understand more about time and the meaning of time and the quality of time and the wealth of time, 10 weeks really, you know, it makes you pause and in awe and just really, wow, appreciate what we have experienced together. So thank you so, so much. I cannot wait for next week for a wrap up, which will be a very socialing event. So bring some drinks. Also, Andrew in Australia, have a drink. There's a lot of alcohol-free versions. I don't want you to start drinking at 7 a.m., but please to join us and bring friends next week as well. Whoever wants to join, friends, family, kids, dog, cat, bring whoever you want. And let's just talk about the last 10 weeks and exchange details and do a wrap up of all the sessions, and then we're done. So that's it for me to all of you. I'm very grateful. I love you all. I got to know many of you more through our one-on-ones. Got many messages for the people who look at it on YouTube, and of course you live, my very loyal group. I might say every week at 7 o'clock you are here for me, and I'm very grateful for that. So thank you so much. I send you all much love. I will stop the recording, and we will talk offline. So bye everyone.